All right, another episode of the Square and Compass podcast. Nice to be back doing a long form podcast with this time talking to a brother from a state I've never actually had the chance to visit. I've been around it a few different times, but never been actually had the chance to visit it yet, Masonically for any other reason, and I'm very much hoping to soon. Um, but the great state of Oklahoma, and particularly, I'm here with Worshipful David Dill. He is the secretary of the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree team, which we're going to talk about because that is something I think it's a really, really cool topic that deserves more attention. But Worshipful, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
And your mother lodge again was Coweta Lodge in Oklahoma, correct?
Yes, Coweta Lodge number 251 in Coweta, Oklahoma, which is near Tulsa.
Okay. But I think, the important thing to mention is the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree team, right? That is a team that is not comprised of members of one particular lodge, but rather it encompasses brothers from across the state of Oklahoma, correct?
Yes, mo most of them are in Northeast Oklahoma, most of our team members. We do have several in Tulsa, myself being in Coweta. We've got Jinx represented, all the way up in far northeastern corner of Oklahoma in Miami. We have a team member up there, and then we have one in Bartlesville, and we're kind of scattered all across northeast Oklahoma. It's not an official rule or anything, but it's just kind of generally advised that you're kind of in the area and that you're able to drive, on a weeknight, if you're able to drive to a degree, that's preferable.
Well, let's start at the start. What is the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree Team?
So we are a degree team that confers a Master Mason degree only, and we are made up entirely of Native American Master Masons. And there are several different tribes represented. Um, the team has been around. Record keeping is kind of iffy, but some people say the late 40s, but I think it officially got organized in the early 60s. And that's when it was a more organized team, and we started to travel out of state and do those sorts of things. Um, we confer the Master Mason degree according to the Oklahoma ritual, which is dictated by the Grand Lodge of Oklahoma, and we are also allowed to deviate slightly and add our own spin on it, if you will. And this the degrees are for the sake of the brother, the brother that's going through the degrees. It's for his benefit. But at the same time, we know what we are. We're there to entertain people. We're a little bit different, and so we play that up a little bit. But in no way is it disrespectful to the degree or the solemnity of the occasion or to the brother that's being raised. Um, some of our requirements to be on the team, preferable that you are native. We don't really dig too deep into that. If you've card carrying members or are fine, or even if you don't have a card or a roll number, if you have ancestry or lineage and you can kind of prove it, that's fine as well. You need dance clothes, which is what you would see at a powwow here in Oklahoma. We wear those in the second section, and so if you don't have those, we ask that you make your dance outfit, or you find a way to get that, and that you do learn the dance that goes with your outfit. Um, and then you have to be able to travel and then do some of the degree work. So it's a lot of requirements. Finding guys that are native, that can travel, that can have the dance clothes, that can do several parts in the degree. And so it's quite a challenge to find brothers that check all those boxes, even here in Oklahoma. But right now we've got a good mix of young guys and elderly team members, and I'm on the younger side, and I think I may be the youngest on the team right now. And then we have other team members that are in their 90s, and so we've got a a lot of different ages represented as well.
What is the looking at your Facebook page? I'll be, posting some links so other people listening and watching can check it out. But just the travel schedule for members of the degree team. It seems that every weekend or a couple weekends you're somewhere new conferring a Master Mason's degree. What's that like in terms of just the travel schedule for yourself, for the other members of the degree team, and trying to balance that with the other Masonic commitments you have and just your day-to-day life commitments?
So we try our best to not have any more than 2 degrees per month. And just from past experiences, it generally seems to be 2 months in the spring and then 2 months in the fall, which is like the busy months out of the year where everyone wants us to come and do a degree. And it's usually April, May, and then September, October. Those just always seem to be real busy. Um, and then in the summertime, middle of summer, it's pretty, we're not too busy in the summertime, or around the holidays in the winter time. We tend to not be that busy. So, but we try not to schedule more than 2 a month. The out of state stuff we try to space out, because when we travel out of state, we're usually leaving on a Friday, conferring the degree on a Saturday, and then coming back to Oklahoma on Sunday. And so it tends to be a 3-day weekend sort of thing. Any of the degrees in Oklahoma, it just kind of depends. If it's a short drive, we'll do that on a weeknight. But if we're like going across the state and it's good 2-hour drive away, we'll do that on a Saturday, where we'll just drive there and back on the same day. And so it is a commitment, but we try to space it out. And then there's also another informal rule of the lodges here in Oklahoma, where we try not to do more than 1 degree at a specific lodge per year. If we, let lodges ask us to do degrees all the time, we might end up at the same lodge 10 times a year. And our degrees are supposed to be more of like a special event, like a one-time thing. And we're not really supposed to go in and do people's degree work for them. And so we want to avoid that. But yeah, the travel in October especially seems to, we just kind of know that that's going to be our busy time of the year. But it's pretty light in the summer, so it kind of balances out.
What is the furthest that you personally have traveled for a degree as part of the degree team? But also, to your knowledge, what would be the furthest that the Masonic degree team has traveled? Because if I recall from my research, the degree team was founded in 1949, I believe. Or was it 48? It was 1949. So it's been around for a fair bit of time. In that time, do you know what's the furthest abroad it has traveled for a degree? And yourself personally, how far have you traveled to confer a Master Mason degree?
So I have been to England with the degree team, and the degree team has been to England 5 separate times. And each time that they have gone, it's been over about a 2-week span. And so I got on with the team about a year before the last time they went, the 5th time. And so I was fortunate to go with them, and we were there for 2 weeks, and we did 12 degrees in 14 days, all across England in those 2 weeks. And so that is the farthest that we have traveled as a team, and that I have been with them as well. If we limit it to the United States, The team has never been to Alaska or Hawaii, but the team has been to most of the lower 48 states. They've been to Washington State, and most recently, or about a year ago, we were in Maine, so the furthest northeast state, and then everywhere else in between, Southern California, um, Florida, Georgia, and then just all across. There's probably a few states that the team hasn't been to. Maybe like Wyoming. I don't think we've been to Wyoming or North Dakota. We have been to South Dakota. Um, and there's probably some
Have
other states that we haven't been to that I'm not aware of. But
has the team ever been to Canada
the team
or Mexico?
the team has not been to Canada or Mexico. Every once in a while, we'll get a request for Canada, but it just never seems to come to fruition. And I would expect someday we might get a trip to Canada.
We'll keep our
And
fingers crossed because that'd be great to. Not that I speak for all of Canada, but it'd be great to those bonds, those traveling bonds between Masons in Canada and the States, right? It's such a, especially being from Windsor, Ontario, so it's such a border town. We have so many Masons from Michigan visiting and vice versa. Be cool to have some brothers from Oklahoma one day.
well, when we were in Maine, um, we had some Canadian brothers come down for our degree in Maine, and I believe New Brunswick. And I actually have I think it was New Brunswick. I've got a pin, um, a Canadian Masonic lapel pin that's from Canada, and so that was kind of cool to see some of those brothers cross over to come see us.
You know, the why what is it about your degree team in particular, the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree team, that has allowed it to last for as long as it has? I don't know of any degree teams that have the same history or have been around as long as yours. To my knowledge, you must be the oldest traveling degree team, certainly in North America, but I would suspect the world. What is it about, the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree team that you think, just in your experience, maybe accounts for this longevity and has allowed it to be around for 70, I can't do math in my head, 75 years, give or take?
Well, that's an interesting question. I believe a lot of it has to do with just the authenticity of the team members. Um, a lot of it, it's our culture, our you know our native culture here in Oklahoma. If you go to a powwow, which is like a gathering and a social gathering, there's dances and contests and events and things. You would actually see several of the team members at the powwow, and so it's like the team is like an extension of our native culture. um, we live it, we make our outfits, we do the dances, and then we incorporate that into the Master Mason degree. And so it's some of the other degree teams that I've seen, guys are kind of dressing up in costume. Um, like here in Oklahoma, we have several others. There's a country boy degree team that they call themselves, and they dress in overalls. There's a cowboy degree team, and they dress up in cowboy outfits. But the Indian degree team, we're not dressing up in costume. It's who we are. We're just being ourselves, if you will. And so there's just like I feel like a deeper connection there. Um, and some of the guys on the degree team, I'm on the younger end, but some of the older guys, they really look the part, if you will. That they're elderly Indian brothers, and just the way they talk and the way they act. It's just a sight to behold, and for some people, it's kind of a culture shock. Um, I know when we were in England, Um, we will do dance programs where we'll do a demonstration of the different dances that you would see at a powwow in Oklahoma, and this is separate from the degree. And so we'd go to schools and do like our dance program for the schools over in England. And one of our guys, just his outfit, the way he looks, and the way he is when he would walk in, some of the kids would like have to leave because they just start crying because he looks scary. And so it's just kind of funny because he's got like the claws and the breastplate and the feathers, and he's got an eagle talon. And and so it's just, I don't know. Um, one of so I'll tell you one thing about the degree also is sometimes in the Master Mason degree you'll hear hymns or music in specific sections. Um, in our degrees, we'll actually use our native prayer songs, and so some of these songs that you would hear at like a powwow, we have incorporated into our degree, and two of them are two of them are in the Ponca language, and then one of them is Kiowa. And so we're actually singing in our native language in three different spots in the Master Mason degree. Um, some of the songs that you would actually hear at a powwow, and from what I understand, one of the songs was actually kind of gifted to the team. It was a family song, and then it was kind of given to the team. And I don't know the entire history behind that, but we have a couple guys on the team that know more about that than I do. So we got two guys on the team that would be like a lead singer at a powwow, and so they'd be the ones picking the songs and starting the songs, and we're fortunate enough to have two of those guys on our team, and so they really know what they're doing as far as that stuff goes.
The impetus, the reason for a lodge to get in touch with the degree team, what have you found to be kind of the main reason or the main impetus behind the contact? Is it they're looking for, a unique experience to provide to their membership? Is it, usually part of a larger day of events, or something special, or an anniversary maybe? What are some of the reasons behind lodges reaching out and asking for the Indian degree team to not only pay them a visit, but to put on this special ritual and special degree?
I think a lot of what you said, it's just different events. Usually, if we're going out of state, it's a anniversary, like a lodge anniversary, or we're one part of like a weekend of events. We've done that before. Like we've been to outside of San Antonio, the shrine. I can't remember the name of the shrine down there, but we were down there and they were having a weekend of events, and I think Saturday morning at the crack of dawn, it was like 7 a.m. We did the degree, and then the whole rest of the day they had events lined up, like a chili cook-off and this or that. And so it's been things like that. And then other times, it's like an anniversary. We've been out to New Mexico, and their lodge was having, I think, a 70th anniversary. Or no. Excuse me. That one was a 200th anniversary. So their lodge was 200 years old. And they brought us in for, just for a celebration and a degree for that. Here in Oklahoma, a lot of the time when we get asked to do degrees in Oklahoma, it's because the candidate is actually native, and they say, "Oh, we've got this candidate. He's full blood Cherokee. We want the Indian degree team to come and confer the Master Mason degree on them." And so we're always happy to do that as well. So it just kind of depends. A lot of times, they're just wanting to do something special for themselves or for the brethren in the area, and just bring in like a unique experience. Like we've been to Dayton, Ohio, and there wasn't really any anniversary or celebration. They just brought us in for a degree to show the brethren up there. And I think at that one we had about 1,200 uh, brethren present in their auditorium in downtown Dayton. And so they just sold tickets, and word got out, and there's a lot of interest, and so we had a pretty good crowd for that one, and they just came out to see the degree. So
And what is the feedback like after you guys perform the degree? Do you speak to well, certainly, from the candidate's perspective, I'm interested to hear what they usually say after the degree, but also, from those in attendance, from the lodge that's invited you, what's the feedback like that the degree team receives?
it's incredible. Usually, I will say here in Oklahoma, people are kind of used to us. Like they'll see us, they've seen us before, sort of thing, and so they're always glad to see us. But like I said, they've seen us before, and so it's not like a big surprise or anything. Um, but usually the candidates, they're speechless, and they don't really know what to say, and they're just so grateful for the experience. But when we travel out of state, um, we usually get just thunderous applause. I know when we were in Maine about this time last year, um, when we got done, they gave us a standing ovation, and it just seemed to go on and on and on. And so that was a really cool thing to see. This all very receptive, and usually after the degree, we'll gather up front for pictures, and after the pictures are done, it just seems like just a constant flow of the brothers coming up and shaking our hands and telling us how much they enjoyed the degree, and how much they were glad we were able to come and do that, and so it's what makes it fun.
And when did you join the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree team?
So I joined in fall of 2011. I was raised in 2010, and then I think summer of 2011, I saw the team for the first time, and I had already learned most of the parts in the degree. I think at that time I had learned them all, and so I thought, I'm Native, I can do all those parts. And so I just called up the director. His name is Butch McIntosh. He's the director of the team, and asked if he needed me, if I could be on it. And he said, yeah, come on. And so I didn't have an outfit, and so I had to make an outfit, and but once I did that, I was good to go, and I've been on since fall of 2011.
I'm sure it's hard to put into words or to try to express in words, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Being a member of the degree team, what has that meant for you in terms of your Masonic journey? How do you think it's affected your Masonic journey? In what ways has it made it better? Just what has it meant to you? And you think in being a Mason, how has the degree team enhanced that experience?
Oh, it's been incredible. Here I am. I'm the secretary, and I get requests from all over the country, um, people I've never met, and they're saying, "Hey, can you come out and confer this degree?" And I say, "Yeah, I'll get my team out." And here we are, making arrangements, flying out to all corners of the country to meet with people we've never met before, but they're brothers, and so we've never had a problem because they're brothers. There's the trust there. Um, like last or 2 years ago, we had a degree up in Denver, and I had to stay a day late, and then I flew up on that Saturday, and I met one of the brothers there who picked me up at the airport, and I thought on, any other circumstance, this would be kind of sketchy, but here I am with brothers, and so there's the trust factor there. Um, it's allowed me to meet people from all over the country and become friends with people that I wouldn't have otherwise. Um, there's a brother out in Delaware. We were in Delaware last June, and we have become really good friends since that trip, and we talk regularly. Um, and I've got a whole list of brothers that I know all across the country, and if I'm ever traveling in the area and something happens, I break down or I hit a snag, there's people I could call, and I know they would come and help. And it's just, quite the network that I've built up over the years. And then, just being able to travel and see how masonry works in different states and across the world, get to see the different lodge buildings and venues and meet the different brothers. Several years ago, we were down in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I was talking to some of the Louisiana brethren after the degree, and just the accents were just so thick down there. I had to really concentrate to understand what they were saying. But it's fun, and this is what makes it fun is seeing the different way that people do things all across the country. Um, we've been out of state before, where the team has outnumbered the number of brethren in the lodge. And but that's the way they wanted. They just wanted a kind of a more intimate type degree, and it wasn't really advertised. They just kind of wanted it for their lodge, and so we got to be a part of that. And then, like I said, we've been to degrees where the attendance has been over 1,000 people in attendance, and so that's fun as well, because I don't know of anyone else in Oklahoma that's not on a degree team that's conferred a degree in front of that many people. We have some newer guys on the team, and at first it kind of freaks them out, just the sheer number of brethren that will come out. But now it's, for me, it's no big deal. It could be 10 people, it could be 1,000. It just doesn't bother me, but it is fun to see some of the newer guys, how they react to the getting onto the team.
What is the biggest crowd you've performed? Isn't quite the right word. What is the biggest group to which you've put on a degree?
So for me personally, it was probably Dayton, Ohio, and there was 1,200 or 1,400 brethren in attendance. I know the team back in the 90s were in Delaware, and they drew about 4,000. And some of the older guys on the team have said that that's the biggest crowd that they've ever had, is 4,000. Back in, I think it was 96 is when that was. When we were in England, just about every place over there was in the hundreds, 300, 200. Here lately, when we've traveled out of state, we've had at least 200. But lately, I will say Delaware of last year had about 800, and in the recent years, that's been the biggest crowd, is 800 in Delaware.
So, you've talked about the events, the places you've traveled to. If a lodge is interested in hosting the Indian Masonic degree team, what are some of the things they should consider? Who do they get in touch with? How do they get that ball rolling in terms of putting something together and hosting the team? And does the team will the team exemplify a ritual? So if a lodge, say, doesn't have any, I guess, fellow crafts in the offing, but still wants to see it, will you exemplify the degree on an already Master Mason, or is it only for, a fellow craft moving up to Master Mason degree?
So I'll start off with the requirements. When we travel, we ask for three things. We ask for travel cost, lodging, and then food while we're away. And so it just kind of depends on where it is. If it's within driving distance, so that would be probably within 8 hours of driving from Tulsa, we would drive there and ask for 50 cents a mile both ways for two vehicles. And then if it's any further than that, we have to fly. And so we'd get into airfare costs there. And then usually we're looking at 2 nights in a hotel for 11 team members. So we ask for 6 rooms for 2 nights, and then just meals while we're away. A lot of times, we don't know where we are, you know what to do, and so we just ask that we're taken care of. Here in Oklahoma, if it's outside the Tulsa area, we just ask for some gas money and then a meal. And usually, most of the time, the degree is centered around the meal. So it's usually pretty easy here in Oklahoma. We don't exemplify degrees or do mock degrees. Each one is a real authentic degree, and it has to be a real fellow craft candidate. And it's not our rules, it's the Oklahoma Grand Lodge. It's their rules. And so when we travel out of state, they grant the team special dispensation to travel out of state and confer degrees according to the Oklahoma ritual. And so part of that requirement is the candidate has to be a real fellow craft. When we travel to Texas, and sometimes some of the other states, Texas won't allow us to confer the degree on one of their candidates, and so we'll have to bring one from Oklahoma. And so we'll have an Oklahoma fellow craft that we'll take with us and then confer the degree on. And so there's several states that we've had to do that with, but most of the time they'll have a candidate and we'll get to confer it on a candidate from their state, which makes it more special for them and especially for that brother.
Does the not necessarily the degree team all together, but members thereof, do they ever travel not to confer degrees, but to present to lodges, or even, I suppose, virtually, to do presentations about the degree team and what it is and more information about it, or, historical presentations about the history of the degree team, outside of the conferring of degrees, but just as educational or, like an educational piece within a lodge?
I don't think we've ever had anyone do that. I think several of us would be open to that. But we've never been asked for like one of us or two of us to travel just to give a educational piece. I believe, several of us could, we just never have. I do know there's, we kind of know the history of the team, but there's several brethren here in Oklahoma that are big into the research, and they have actually written articles and books and papers about the relationship of the tribes and the fraternity, and kind of how things came to be in Oklahoma in the early days, before Oklahoma was even a state. And there's a lot of brothers that are not on the team, but have written articles about that. And so I do get questions from time to time about, research articles and, hey, can you tell us this or tell us that, or I have this question. And so a lot of times I'll refer them to the brothers that are more inclined to do that research and to study that. So
I think it's just such a, I'm working on a project here in Windsor, and one of the areas that it's got some attention, but I don't think nearly enough, is the connection or connections between First Nations, original peoples, and Freemasonry. I mean, being in Windsor or Essex, one of our connections is with Chief Tecumseh, who was a Freemason. It's an interesting kind of it's a unique topic, and it's something that the Indian degree team, I think, really exemplifies. Right, going the degree team may have been formed in 1949, right? But the connections and the relationships between Indians in Oklahoma and Freemasonry is going to predate that by decades, if not centuries.
yeah, so late 1800s is when a lot of that happened, and like I said, I'm not the authority on this, but I can give you just a quick rundown of some of the things that I know. One being that the Cherokee Nation, one of their famous principal chiefs, William Ross, or Chief Ross, was actually made a Master Mason in Federal Lodge Number 1 in Washington, D.C., and then came back and kind of brought Masonry back with him. And then several of the other prominent Indian leaders were also Freemasons as well. And so Tahlequah, Oklahoma, is actually the Cherokee Nation's capital, and they have the oldest lodge in Oklahoma, which was, I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe it was 1840s or 1850s is when it was founded. And I believe it was actually chartered out of Arkansas. And like I said, I'm not the authority on this, so I might have my facts just a little bit off. But there's a lot of history like that as well. And you said Chief Tecumseh. I'm not really too familiar with him, but I do know we have a Tecumseh, Oklahoma, and so a lot of our towns are the names of the towns are actually, native words or native names or or native meanings. And so there's a lot of that, like Coweta, where I'm from, is actually a Creek word, and there's a Coweta, Georgia, and that's where one of the areas that the Creek Indians originally came from. And that's the cool thing about the members of the team, is a lot of us are living in the nation that we belong to. Like I'm Creek. We have several Cherokees on the team that are from the Cherokee Nation. Um, Several Pawnees that are from the Pawnee Nation. Like that's where they grew up. That's where they're from, and so there's a lot of that we have as well. And if you wanted to, if you wanted to dig deeper in that, I could certainly email you some contacts of the guys I mentioned earlier that are big into the research and could share articles and things with you.
Absolutely. No, I would love that. And I think it's one of those topics that is definitely worth, there's a lot of brothers doing some great work in researching it, and it needs to get out there a lot more perhaps than it is. So I think it'd be really cool to learn more about it, and maybe do a whole podcast episode about that relationship in particular, which I haven't really delved on the podcast before. But
Yeah,
certainly a
and
big. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, if you're interested in that, I have a brother in mind. I could give you his contact, and he would be a great resource for that sort of thing.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, shoot me off an email after this, because I'll definitely get in touch. What in terms of what's next for yourself or for the degree team? Do you have anything coming up? Any degrees you have on the horizon? And is there anything you're looking forward to? It doesn't even have to be necessarily related to the degree team per se, but just within your own Masonic career. What do you've got coming up that you're looking forward to?
Well, I don't do a whole lot um, much anymore. I try to just stick with the degree team, and then my home lodge, if they have a degree or need some help, I'll help them, but I don't really attend regularly there. I've got wife and 3 small kids, and so I really try my best to limit that. It gets hard sometimes because I have, I don't know, a gift of memory or a privilege of, I don't know, but I've learned all the ritual work, and so I'm actually qualified to teach it all here in Oklahoma. And so I get people calling, "Hey, I need help with this, I need help with that." And so if I'm not careful, I can get real busy real fast. Um, but the team, um, we have some things coming up. Um, let's see. Next, I don't have my calendar in front of me. We have some interesting opportunities. I don't know if some of them will come to fruition, but we'll see. I know there's a brother in Alaska that's wanting the team to come out later this year. We'll see if that happens. That would be very interesting. That would be in Anchorage, I believe. And then we have some closer nearby, like we got one in Dallas. Possible trip to California next year, Connecticut next year, and possibly Pennsylvania. Um, but we'll see. If people are interested in seeing what we're doing, we try to get everything posted to our Facebook page, and periodically we'll have a calendar of events. I try to I'm not on Facebook anymore. I had to give up that. And just kind of detach from social media. But we have a guy on the team that does the Facebook page, and so we try to put a calendar up at the beginning of the year, and then one later on in the year as we get scheduled to do things. So if anyone is interested, just search Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree Team on Facebook, and we'll try to keep our calendar up to date on there.
And I will leave a link in the description of this video so people can find it that way as well. I heard about the Oklahoma Masonic Indian Degree Team relatively early in my Masonic career, or certainly at least relatively early in starting this podcast. Finally reached out. I'm happy I did, and I'm happy I got to speak with you. I think it's a really, like I said, it's got to be doing something right, because there aren't any degree teams I can think of that are older than that date, predate 1949, 1948. So, the degree team is doing something right, that's for sure. And I think it just the fact that it not only is able to travel, but as you said earlier in this interview, get the attendance it gets, how often do we see Masonic events where you have hundreds to, in some cases, over 1,000 members or brothers in attendance, right? Those are pretty rare. So I think the work that you're doing is great. And then as a secretary myself, I think, the work that you have to do, particularly as secretary, coordinating everything, being the contact person, also deserves a round of applause. So, thank you to yourself and to the degree team for the work you do in promoting, Oklahoma Freemasonry, promoting Indian Freemasonry, but also just promoting the craft in general. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Well, thank you, and I do enjoy doing the secretary part, mainly because it is fun to connect with people across the country and to get to talk to them, get to know them, and I it is a privilege. Some of the other guys on the team, they come to the degrees, they travel, but they don't get to necessarily form connections like I do, and some of them do. When we're there, they make friends, but just some of these events that we go to out of state are in the works for over a year, and so it's a year and a half, 2 years of talking with brothers back and forth, and so you just form relationships that way, and it's just amazing. um, and I will say it is also humbling. Something you said earlier made me think of this. We have like been traveling, and we'll be in southern Oklahoma at a gas station, just filling up our vehicles or whatever, and people will come up to us and say, "Where are you headed, today?" Like they recognize us, just random people. We've been in the airport in New York, just on a layover, and we've had a guy come up to us that recognized us and asked us where we're headed. It's it's just kind of crazy when stuff like that happens. That people have seen us and recognize us, and